On a quiet Friday morning in September 2001, Ana Montes followed her usual routine. She stepped into her car and began the familiar drive to the Defense Intelligence Agency headquarters near the Pentagon. To anyone watching, she was simply another dedicated government employee heading to work. Calm, professional, predictable. What she didn't know was that federal agents were watching her every move. Within hours, the carefully constructed double life she had maintained for nearly 17 years would come crashing down. For almost 2 decades, she had operated at the heart of American intelligence while secretly serving another nation. And no one suspected a thing. Ana Montes was born in 1957 in West Germany, where her father served as an army doctor. Her family later moved to the United States, settling into what appeared to be a stable middle-class life. But beneath the surface, her upbringing was shaped by strict discipline and emotional strain. Her father ruled the household with intensity and control, and family tensions eventually led to divorce during her teenage years. As she grew older, political awareness became a central part of her identity. During her university years, she spent time studying abroad in Spain during a transformative period following the death of longtime dictator Francisco Franco. The country was redefining itself politically, and debates about democracy, authoritarianism, and foreign influence filled the streets. Anti-American sentiment was common in certain circles, and Montes absorbed these conversations deeply. She began to see global politics not as a battle between good and evil, but as a struggle between powerful nations and smaller ones trying to assert independence. By the time she returned to the United States, her worldview had shifted significantly. After graduation, she took a clerical position at the Department of Justice while pursuing graduate studies in international affairs at Johns Hopkins University. It was there that she met someone who would alter the course of her life, a fellow student quietly connected to Cuban intelligence. The approach was subtle. At first, it involved small tasks: translating documents, discussing politics, offering intellectual support. But gradually, the request became more serious. Would she be willing to help in ways that crossed legal boundaries? She said yes. In the mid-1980s, she secretly traveled to Havana, where Cuban intelligence officers trained her in the fundamentals of espionage. She learned how to detect surveillance, how to communicate using encrypted systems, and how to control physiological responses during polygraph examinations. She was instructed never to remove physical documents from secure buildings. Instead, she was to memorize classified information and reconstruct it later. Her mission was ambitious: penetrate the U.S. intelligence community and provide valuable insight from the inside. In 1985, she joined the Defense Intelligence Agency as an entry-level analyst. The timing worked in her favor. The agency was expanding its operations related to Latin America, and there was high demand for specialists. Montes quickly distinguished herself. She was disciplined, analytical, and intensely focused. Supervisors praised her expertise and professionalism. Behind the scenes, however, she was building a second career. Each day at work, she absorbed classified information related to U.S. military strategy and intelligence assessments about Cuba and other Latin American nations. She committed key details to memory. At home, she typed reports onto a personal laptop and transferred the data onto encrypted disks. Instructions from her handlers arrived through shortwave radio broadcasts. At predetermined times, a string of numbers would be transmitted. She recorded them on dissolvable paper, encrypted the messages using a code system, and followed the instructions carefully. Meetings with Cuban contacts were arranged discreetly in public locations, often blending into ordinary settings. Her ability to compartmentalize was extraordinary. She did not flaunt wealth, she did not display erratic behavior. She kept her personal life minimal and guarded. Over time, she rose through the ranks, eventually becoming the DIA's leading analyst on Cuba, the very subject most valuable to her foreign handlers. She earned a reputation for brilliance. Colleagues trusted her analysis. Senior officials relied on her briefings. She appeared deeply committed to U.S. national security. In reality, she was providing sensitive information that compromised intelligence methods and potentially exposed covert officers. In the mid-1990s, Cuban fighter jets shot down 2 civilian aircraft flown by the exile group Brothers to the Rescue, killing 4 people. The incident created international outrage. Montes was summoned to brief high-level officials about Cuba's capabilities. It should have been a defining professional moment. Instead, she left work early that evening after receiving a phone call that visibly unsettled her. Investigators would later suspect she was urgently communicating with her Cuban handlers about possible U.S. retaliation. Still, suspicions remained scattered and unproven. The turning point came indirectly. In Florida, federal authorities dismantled a Cuban espionage ring known as the WASP network. Thousands of documents and intercepted communications were seized. Within those materials were hints that a highly placed mole operated inside U.S. intelligence. An analyst reviewing the evidence noticed patterns, references to a government insider with access to specific systems, someone who had traveled to Guantanamo Bay, someone using encrypted digital methods. The profile slowly narrowed. Travel records, access logs, and communication clues pointed toward a single individual, Ana Montes. At first, some investigators hesitated. She did not fit the traditional stereotype of a spy. She was quiet, methodical, and not financially motivated. But as surveillance intensified, evidence mounted. Agents tracked her use of payphones and calling cards. A subpoena of her credit records revealed a past purchase of a Toshiba laptop matching descriptions found in intercepted communications. Eventually, while she was out of town, investigators entered her apartment covertly. On her computer, they discovered encrypted files linking her directly to Cuban intelligence. The case had moved from suspicion to confirmation. After the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001, urgency escalated. Officials feared that if she remained in place, she could compromise sensitive wartime intelligence. Plans were set in motion quickly. On September 21, 2001, she was asked to attend what she believed was a routine administrative meeting. Inside the conference room were FBI agents waiting to arrest her. When they placed her in handcuffs, she did not break down. She remained composed, almost detached. Agents later described her demeanor as calm and steady. She was charged with conspiracy to commit espionage. Unlike other notorious spies such as Robert Hanssen and Aldrich Ames, who were motivated largely by financial gain, Montes insisted her actions were driven by ideology. During her sentencing, she stated that she followed her conscience rather than the law. She argued that U.S. policy toward Cuba was unjust and that she believed she was helping a smaller nation defend itself. The court sentenced her to 25 years in prison. She was transferred to a high-security unit at Federal Medical Center, Carswell in Texas. Much of her incarceration was spent in isolation. Communication with other inmates was restricted. Contact with the outside world was limited. Over time, psychological evaluations suggested that aspects of her childhood, including rigid family dynamics and emotional strain, may have contributed to her susceptibility to recruitment. But those assessments did not change the reality of her actions. She had compromised national security for nearly 2 decades. In January 2023, after serving more than 21 years with credit for good behavior, Ana Montes was released. She returned quietly to Puerto Rico, avoiding media attention and public commentary. Her case remains one of the most significant espionage breaches within the Defense Intelligence Agency. It challenges assumptions about motivation, loyalty, and how ideology can override legal boundaries. Perhaps the most unsettling aspect of her story is not how she passed polygraphs or avoided suspicion for so long. It is that she genuinely believed she was acting morally. She did not describe herself as a traitor. She described herself as principled. That belief allowed her to live 2 parallel lives without visible cracks for 17 years. And if someone so disciplined, so trusted, and so ideologically convinced could operate undetected at the heart of national security, it leaves one lingering question. How many others might still be out there, equally certain that what they're doing is justified?